Hi, all. Welcome back. It is the Moon Griffon Show. What a great day to be with you. Matthew James Tax Reduction Hotline, if you want to be part of the program. Honored to have our great Senator, John Kennedy joins us. Senator, how you doing?
Moon, I am great, man. Did a little fishing yesterday afternoon.
Did you? Saw water?
Got into some big redfish.
Ooh, that ain't hardly fun at all. No
fun.
No
man.
specks.
My
No
shoulder's
specks.
sore today.
No specks.
Didn't get into any specks.
Okay.
But I'm going to try to go out later today if I get my work done, do a little freshwater fly fishing, catch a few little bass.
Ooh, no, that's fun. I ain't done that in a while. Bass fish a lot, but not the fly fishing. But I know I have done that, and that is a lot of fun.
Those bass are too smart for him, man. The redfish just slam that shrimp.
Yeah. Well,
you got to be smart to catch those bass.
I'm about to say, if you throwing shrimp, your chances of catching one go up pretty good. Senator, let's talk about some issues real quick, and I appreciate you spending a couple segments with us. First of all, Let's talk about the budget and the big, beautiful reconciliation bill what the president is trying to get done. And do you think we actually can get a bill and a budget and reconciliation? Because these CRs are getting old in my book.
Yeah, we'll get it done. The purpose of the reconciliation bill is to lower prices. And we do that by reducing spending. We've gotten in the mess of high prices because President Biden spent so much money.
Yep.
We're also going to get rid of rules and regulations to lower the price of goods and services. And we're going to rewrite the tax code to create jobs. And if we do that, we'll be able to increase people's wages. And that's our game plan for getting down prices. Now, look, it's not going to be smooth sailing, and there won't be a consensus reached within the Senate Republicans and within the House Republicans and between and among them. And after 60 days of us working on it and all offering our ideas, we're going to have to go to the president and say, Mr. President, here's our work product, and here's what we can't agree on. You break the tie. Mm-hmm. And he'll do that, and then he'll put his muscle behind it, and we'll pass it. We won't get any Democratic support, but because their favorite form of spending is more. But we'll pass it. It may take 60 to 90 days.
You concerned about, me and you talked about this last time, and I brought up to the fact that said, Senator Kennedy, we got such a debt problem now. And I said, I'm worried about our economy. And you told me that as long as they keep buying our bonds, we're going to be okay. Our economy will be fine. But is it coming to a time they won't buy our bonds? Because $37 trillion in debt's a lot of money. Just what's your thoughts on it? I mean, are we still okay in that area? I mean, that's what concerns me. I don't want to live through a Great Depression. I don't think President Trump has anything to do with this, but where's your concerns at with all this money that we've overspent, really?
Well, when you talk about buying bonds, of course, what you're talking about is we borrow money, the federal government does, to deficit spend, and we borrow that through bonds. And when we spend way more than we take in, people will still loan us money by buying our bonds, but they want a higher interest rate. Mm-hmm. I met with the president. 3 or 4 of us went over to see him week before last. Sat right across from him, looked him right in the eye, and heard him say, we're going to reduce spending in the reconciliation bill. Mm-hmm. And now, part of the purpose, of course, of the bill is to extend the tax cuts. Mm-hmm. We better, or this economy will crash. But the other part is to reduce spending, and that will. I mean, he understands that the path we're on is not sustainable. You know, how long would your family last if every month you just charged more and more to the credit card bill and paid the minimum?
Well, let me ask you.
Sooner or later, it jumps on you.
But you got enough Republicans in the House and Senate to do something about it. I know everybody's not on the same page. I don't expect any help from the Democrats because they think 40, 50, $200 trillion debt is no problem. I mean, they really do. They don't have any concept of money. I think it's one of the most disrespected things we do with money in Congress and Baton Rouge and everywhere else. So that's the part that worries me. Can you get it done? You feel like you're going to get it done. You think it's going to be something before the recess in the summer? You think this goes down to the wire like it always does?
I think it'll take, well, I want it to take 60 to 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
I would, if I were Thune or Mike Johnson, I'd give each of my people 60 days to try to work it out.
Okay.
Neither side will be able to reach a complete consensus, so everybody's happy, and then you go to Trump. But I'll give you an example. The reason there's disagreement, for example, among Republicans, let's pick Medicaid. Some of my colleagues don't want to touch Medicaid at all. Now, what the president said is, I don't want to cut Medicaid benefits. But there are changes we can make to Medicaid without touching benefits. For example, if you're 55 or younger and you're able-bodied and you don't have kids at home, you ought to be required to work.
Yep. Agree with that.
Every Medicaid department in every state, before they let someone join Medicaid, should be required to pick up the phone and call their Department of Revenue and check their income.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most people don't lie, but a lot of people do. I mean, our auditor in Louisiana has caught people making $200,000 a year getting Medicaid because the Medicaid folks just take people's word for it. And, you know, I play poker with friends sometime, and they're all friends, but I always cut the cards.
Yeah,
you just got to double check.
Yeah. You, one of the things that you made a comment on, too, that I agree 100% with you. So President Trump and his tariffs, and I have no problem with it because I understand President Trump's not trying to hurt us. He's trying to help us. One of the things you said was, and I had echoed that before you said it, but when you said it, I said, good, that nobody knows where this is going with tariffs. Since that comment, do you feel better, worse? You still think we're in that boat? What do you feel like with the tariffs? I think they're very important at this point.
Well, I feel better.
Okay.
I mean, there's no question that a lot of foreign nations have used trade barriers to take advantage of America. And President Trump said, no more. Okay, you got high tariffs, I'm going to raise ours. And then an astounding thing happened. I didn't know what would happen. I thought maybe these countries would bow up and we'd get into a trade war. And we still could, but most of these countries have said, okay, we'll come to the table and we'll negotiate lowering our tariff if you'll lower yours. Those countries would not have come to the table, and there are about 100. There are over 100 of them out of 195 countries. They wouldn't have come to the table but for what President Trump did. So we're in the process of negotiating lower tariffs, which will be a good thing because it'll give people the right to freely exchange goods and services at the best price.
Yeah, by the way,
but it's going to be bumpy. It's going to be bumpy for a while, man.
But I think, don't you agree with me that the president really is, by doing this, is trying to just make it equal footing? I mean, a lot of people have talked about trade for a long time, but this would make it more fair. It would make us more competitive in areas that maybe we're not as competitive in. Am I wrong by saying that?
No, I think you're right. I mean, the president, I think intentionally, has talked about different trade philosophies because he's in the middle of negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to show all his cards.
Sure.
But I believe his ultimate objective, what I hope his ultimate objective is to have both sides lower their tariffs.
Okay.
Because all a tariff is government putting its thumb on the scale. I believe in free enterprise.
Yeah, I'd love to see him go. Let me do this. I'm going to take a quick break, come back another 7, 8, 9 minutes with you. We'll talk about a little bit more on this, but one of the things I want to bring up is the big bad dude in this equation, which is China, and get your thoughts on China because that's really where most of the problems are, I think. But I'm going to let you describe for us what you think is going on. So anyway, his name is Senator John Kennedy. He's our very own United States Senator. Take a break, come back and wrap it up with Senator John Kennedy. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. Hi, y'all. Welcome back. It is the Moon Griffon Show. This is Matthew James Tax Reduction Hotline, if you want to be on the program. On that hotline, we have Senator John Kennedy, who joins us. One more segment to go. Senator Kennedy, talk a little bit about China. You know, President Trump, when he came in the first time, he had China on his eyes. I mean, he really focused on how bad China is in a lot of areas. I still think they're the big problem in the midst of this thing. How do you feel with the tariffs in China and what China's trying to do? And are we so dependent on China now, a communist country? I'm just kind of curious, what's your stand with this?
Well, our two economies are very linked, but China cheats and they take advantage of Americans. Mm-hmm. China was admitted to the World Trade Organization on December 11th, 2001, with the U.S. support, and China started cheating on December 12th. And President Trump has said, enough. You know, you want to sell everything to us, but when we ask to sell stuff to your people, you won't open your markets. Mm-hmm. China, and so the president has ratcheted up tariffs on China. China's responded, but China eventually, I don't know when, will have to give in because the economy in China is on a journey to the ocean floor. They've got deflation, high unemployment, the property market has exploded. They sell us. We buy 5 times more from them, 4 times more from them than they buy from us. So if we stop buying from them, they're in a world of hurt.
Yep.
And I don't know how long it will take, but they'll come to the table. They're probably talking right now.
Yeah, I would think China with their economy, and I've been reading about this for years, they had so much trouble. They lie. They build fake cities nobody live in just to give them something to do and make it look like they're rolling. You're dealing with communists. And so I always wondered this, Senator, since I was a young guy, and I'm not as young as I used to be, why are we so enticed or in bed with a communist country who would turn on you and kill you in a second? And I think President Trump is the first one to come along and say, not no more. I don't remember anybody else coming along, and I mean from the presidency position, to come along and say China thinks they're bad, but China can't hang with us. They really can't. They might hurt us some, but I don't think they can hang with us.
Well, we got here because I remember 20, 30 years ago, all of our political leaders said, look, be patient with China, give them what they want. As they get wealthier, they'll embrace democratic values. They did get wealthier, and and Xi Jinping took over, and they obviously didn't embrace democratic values. They turned on us. Mm-hmm. And Trump was the first president in my lifetime to say, "Well, wait a minute, China's not our friend. We don't want to be enemies with them, but we're not going to let them take advantage of us anymore." And I have met with Xi Jinping. I looked him in the eye. This man's got the eyes of a shark. These people are hard men, and they are convinced that America is in decline, and that they're give them 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they'll rule the world, and we'll all be speaking Chinese. So we're either going to stand up to them, or we're going to give in. I think we ought to stand up to them. Yeah,
I know Trump ain't scared of them. He hadn't been scared of them the first time. Let's jump gears.
They're scared of Trump. They're scared of Trump.
I think so, too. Let's jump gears. Let's talk about the border, which was a gigantic issue in the election, and President Trump is trying to do something about it. You got federal judges trying to stop them, the ones that are appointed by Biden and Obama. Is the border becoming secure more and more every day? I'm reading and hearing that they're doing some great work down there. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on at the borders, not only at the southern border, the northern border as well?
Well, the southern border right now is a ghost town. I mean, it's just been, the change is so dramatic. And I said a few times in the campaign, and people sort of looked at me weird. And I said that the closing the border, stopping illegal immigration is going to be the easiest thing we do. And it was, because all the president did was go back to doing what he did before Biden took over. It was working then. It's working now. And what we are is trying to get rid of. There were Biden let in, I don't know, we don't know, 8 to 12 million people. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they're from. We don't know what they stand for. A lot of them are children that we don't know where they are. Many of them are probably being sex trafficked.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to get rid of the bad folks that Biden let in and get them out of the country. But it's going to take a while. And we're going to get pushback. The Democrats are fighting us every step of the way. They believe in open borders. And many of the federal judges are. Ultimately, we will win, but it takes a while to appeal all those cases.
What do you make of these judges every time President Trump, Senator, does something? The Biden and Obama rescue team comes in. Even Senator Schumer, who ran the Senate for so long, said, hey, we put 225 judges in the last year or two. And they're the ones beating Trump back. And I thought, I don't think that's how the government's supposed to work. But yet, that's how it's working. The good news is the Supreme Court is starting to overturn some of those crazy judge rulings.
Well, these judges are using what's called universal injunctions. What does that mean? Let's suppose, Moon, you and I go to court. You know, we sue each other. And the judge is going to say one of us wins and one of us loses. But the judge doesn't have the authority to say, and by the way, even though your neighbors are not before me in court, my ruling applies to them too. That's unconstitutional. And that's what a universal injunction does. The federal judge, even though he has limited geographical jurisdiction, say he's in Baton Rouge, he's shutting down the federal government and the law for the entire country.
Yeah.
And I think that's illegal, and it's going to continue until the Supreme Court acts.
Well, let me ask you a quick question, Senator. The Supreme Court acted on a couple of them for Trump. Can they act on one case and say, y'all have no jurisdiction over anything? Can they do that? And if they can, what's taking so long? What's taking so long?
I don't know what's taking so long, but yes, the Supreme Court can take one of these cases on universal injunctions and say, in my judgment correctly, universal injunctions are illegal. They have no statutory basis. They have no basis in the Supreme Court precedent. There's no basis in English common law on which our system is based. You can't point to anything in the federal rules of civil procedure that allows judges to do this. They're just doing it. They started doing it in this century, and 2/3 of the universal injunctions have been issued against President Trump. So it's clear what's going on.
Let me ask you a question. This is a tough one, but if you can handle it. So when the federal judges who are voted on by the Senate and they come up, and Republicans like yourself and other Republicans vote for all these federal judges, maybe you don't vote for all of them, but you vote for a lot of them. Why aren't there more pushback against stopping some of these people that become federal judges? And maybe because you don't have the votes at the time. I mean, maybe you don't have the votes at the time. But why? What's the fight?
I mean, I have worn them out in committee under President Biden, but we didn't have the votes. The Democrats had the majority. We managed to kill some of the really bad ones because we embarrassed them. But there were a lot of bad judges that got through under President Biden. President Trump, in his first term, tried to appoint a few. We killed the ones that weren't qualified. So we tried to be fair about it. But there were, there's some judges on the bench that don't know a law book from a J. Crew catalog. They're just political activists.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And by the way, that's why elections have consequences. And that's why you got to keep winning elections, because if you don't, and you get the wrong president in with the wrong party, it's a problem. Well, Senator, look, I got to go. Thank you always. I hope you have a happy Easter.
You too, Moon. Thanks for having me, my friend.
Yes, sir. Anytime. You're always welcome. All right, let's take a break, a little short break to people leaving us. Have a happy Easter.